As we begin our journey together in this course called The Disciple Making Life, I want to begin in this first video by answering the question, what is discipleship? What are we talking about? Let's make sure that we're speaking the same language here. And really, I want to break it up into really three definitions. What is a disciple? What is discipleship? And then what is disciple making? And they kind of can all fall under the umbrella of discipleship. But I want to just kind of break that out by looking at these three different aspects of discipleship. The first one is, what is a disciple? What is a disciple? Well, the Greek word for a disciple means learner or follower. Mathetes, learner or follower. So in its simplest term, a disciple is a follower of Jesus. A follower of Jesus. Now, in the Gospels, Jesus expounds on what it looks like to be a disciple, but just for today, a disciple is a follower of Jesus. Someone who apprentices after Jesus, lives with, walks with, and follows and puts into practice what Jesus did. Okay, so that's a disciple. He's someone who is a follower of Jesus. Then what is discipleship? Well, discipleship is the process as a disciple of becoming more and more like Jesus. Right? Discipleship is becoming more and more like the one we follow. So a disciple follows Jesus. Discipleship is that process in our lives where we're getting to know him better and we're becoming more like him in our lives. And it includes quite a few things, which we'll look at in this course. Learning how to pray, learning how to study his word, learning how to apply it to life, learning to love like Jesus. There's a lot that goes into that, but just for our first video, I would give a very simple definition of discipleship. Now, here's the thing. Someone can try to be a disciple without pursuing discipleship. And according to Jesus, that's then not really a disciple. Okay? So discipleship is that pursuit. It is the process of becoming more and more like Jesus. Not just crossing the line of faith and becoming a Christian, but becoming more and more like the Christ that we follow. Christian means little Christ. It's learning to live more and more like a little Christ. Okay, what is a disciple? A follower of Jesus. What is discipleship? The process of a disciple becoming more and more like Jesus. Then what is disciple making? Because this is the heart of this course. I want us to learn what it means to truly be disciple makers, not just disciples who are pursuing discipleship, but who become disciple makers. And I think Ralph Moore, in his book, Making Disciples, gives a great definition of what disciple making is. He says that disciple making is an intentional friendship with another person with Jesus at its core. It's a friendship, it's a relationship with someone where you're being intentional with them to keep Jesus at the core of that relationship. So disciple making can be a pre-disciple, someone who doesn't even know Christ yet, but you're cultivating that relationship to help them eventually come to know Jesus as Lord and Savior. Or disciple making can also include coming alongside maybe like a younger believer, and you're intentionally helping them become more like Christ in their life. So it's about friendship and it's about intentionality. Okay, so that's the definition of a disciple, discipleship, and disciple making. Now, I want to end our time together in this first video by looking at what disciple making is not, what it's not. And this is taken from Bill Hull in his book, The Complete Book of Discipleship. He shares in the book 6 things that is not disciple making or discipleship. Number 1, it is not a program. In other words, discipleship isn't just, hey, go to this class. Oh, cool. You went through the discipleship class. Awesome. You're great. Congratulations. You came for 6 weeks, 12 weeks. Let me shake your hand. Here's a degree. You've been discipled. Now, it's not a program. I've said this many times. People disciple people, not programs. There's nothing wrong with programs because the Rock Bible Institute is a program. It is a disciple-making program where we're helping train people. There's nothing wrong with programs and having that at all. So please hear that. But sometimes we think that we just come to a class, we sit in a room, we listen, take some notes, and then go off and try to apply it, into our individual lives. In reality, discipleship's with people. Jesus taught his disciples, but Jesus did life with his disciples. It wasn't a 3-year program with his disciples before he went to the cross. It was life on life. It involves intentional relationship. Number 2, disciple making is not a production line. It's not just this with this, and then you definitely do that, and then it leads to this. It's fluid. Disciple making it's fluid. God will bring different people in your life at different stages, and sometimes, quite frankly, sometimes you take 2 steps forward with someone and they take a step back, and it's not cookie cutter. All right, it's not a production line. Okay, it's messy. To be honest with you, it's probably why, in my humble opinion, I think most people aren't pursuing disciple making in the local church. And I'm not even sure our pastors are really living to be disciple makers in other people's lives. Because quite frankly, it's messy. It's so much easier to say, come to this class, do this thing, go through the production line. Okay, you're good. No, it doesn't work that way. It's messy. Just look at the Gospels. Look at Jesus with his disciples. It was messy. They screwed up a lot, but he stuck with them. He was intentional with them. And then look what happened when the Spirit of God got a hold of them. Number 3, disciple making is not just for beginners. In some churches, there's a discipleship class, and that's for anyone that's a brand new Christian, which, by the way, I think that's great. We're actually looking at some things when a person crosses the line of faith, some training that we can give them as new believers. I just had someone actually just reach out to me last week where they have someone in their life. They want to walk through some very basic things. Oh, that's great, by the way. Wonderful. But discipleship is so much more than just something you provide for a brand new believer, who's just beginning in the faith. Okay, discipleship, disciple making, that process is it kind of goes on until we meet Jesus someday. Like, I've been a pastor 31 years. I've been a follower of Jesus for 36 years. Well, guess what? I still need people to help disciple me. I have a couple adult men in my life, older, wiser pastors in my life that I still turn to for counsel and advice, for some discipleship. I read and learn from others. And discipleship isn't just for beginners. And number 4, it's also not just for leaders. The select few that have shown themselves to be incredible leaders, and we'll disciple them to lead others. Again, equipping leaders is important. Having a leadership pipeline in the local church is really important. And I know that's something that we discuss at the leadership level, and how do we do that? And actually, the Rock Bible Institute is a way we're hoping through that to rub shoulders with potential leaders in the church. And so disciple making is certainly for leaders, but it's for anyone. It's for people who don't even consider themselves a leader, because everyone is leading somebody, right? You have somebody, at least one person looking at your life, that someone that you can lead. So it's not just for like the church leaders in the church. Bill Hall goes on to say, number 5, disciple making is not just for the highly literate. Right? It's not just the brainiacs, it's the ones with Bible college and seminary degrees. Just on Sunday, I shared from the book of Acts about John and Peter and how the people observed that they were just common, uneducated men, but that they had been with Jesus. Disciple making is really for anyone that's in love with Jesus, that wants to get to know Jesus better, wants to grow in Jesus, and then as a disciple maker, wants other people to fall in love with Jesus. It's not just for the highly literate. And number 6, Bill then shares that disciple making is not just for people who like structure. Not everyone is highly disciplined and highly organized. And it's not just for those that are willing to go through a hard class and do a lot of hard things. And, it's just for those people. It's for anyone that wants to reach someone that they care about with the gospel, or someone that's a Christian, but they want to help them grow in discipleship, or someone that has a burden to help others become disciple makers. Yes, there's some discipline involved, but it's not just for the highly structured who like, those kind of like discipleship courses or those kind of, it's a lifestyle. I guess what I'm trying to say in all of this, and I think the point that Bill Hall is making in his book is discipleship, disciple making, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of life where we just choose to be intentional with the people that God has placed in our lives, so that wherever they're at, whether they don't know Christ yet, or they do, but they're baby Christians and they really need to grow, or they're growing, but they're not reaching others. Whatever place someone in your life is, that you as a disciple maker wants to just help them take that next step with Jesus. We're going to look over the course of the 8 weeks of the disciple making life, how to better do that, starting with evangelism. Those who don't yet know Christ, how do we come alongside of them and share the gospel? To then, how do we intentionally come along and help people become more committed disciples of Jesus and disciple makers? We're going to walk through that. But I wanted to start in this first video with just some definitions to make sure that we're speaking the same language as we're talking about what the disciple making life looks like. Can't wait to go on this journey with you.